It began with the single, haunting image of an old brick orphanage standing like a forgotten relic against a grey winter sky. Its windows were shattered, the roof sagging under years of neglect, and a faded sign by the gate read, "Street, Mary's Home for Children." Inside, the sound of dripping rain echoed through empty hallways that once rang with laughter. For most people who saw the viral photo online, it was just another sad story in a world full of them. But for one man, John Kennedy, it became something else entirely. It became a calling. John Kennedy was not your typical millionaire, a real estate developer from Chicago. He had built his empire from nothing, turning rundown buildings into gleaming towers that defined city skylines. He was known for his vision, his discipline, and his relentless drive to win. But behind his polished image, Kennedy carried a quiet regret. His mother had been a foster child, passed from home to home, and though she had built a good life for him, her stories of loneliness and survival never left his heart. So when he stumbled upon the story of the failing orphanage online, something inside him stirred a mix of empathy and unfinished purpose. When Kennedy first drove to Street Mary's, what he found broke him. The walls were cracked, the power flickered, and the few children who remained huddled in coats to stay warm. The orphanage director, Sister Agnes, an elderly nun with tired eyes, welcomed him with a faint smile. "We've done all we can," she whispered, her voice trembling. "But we're weeks away from closing." The place was more than just a building up. It was home to 23 children who had nowhere else to go. Some were orphans, others were victims of abandonment, poverty, or tragedy. They slept in shared rooms with broken beds and learned in classrooms without books. Kennedy listened to their stories, each one cutting deeper than the last. A little boy named Liam told him that his biggest dream was to grow up and fix roofs, so kids don't get rained on. That night, Kennedy couldn't sleep. The image of those children haunted him. And by morning, he had made a decision that would change not just his life but theirs. He bought the orphanage. At first, no one believed it. Not the media, not his investors, not even Sister Agnes. "People like you build hotels, not hope," she said softly. But Kennedy was determined. What started as an act of compassion quickly became a mission. "If we can build skyscrapers to touch the clouds," he said at a press conference, "we can rebuild something that touches hearts." Yet, the journey was anything but easy. The building was falling apart, the local council refused permits, and some critics accused Kennedy of using the children for publicity. Even his business partners warned him he was throwing money away. But he pushed on, selling one of his own properties to fund the renovation. He personally met with architects, engineers, and volunteers, insisting that the orphanage be redesigned not as a shelter but as a home. Over the next year, the transformation began to unfold. Walls that once crumbled were rebuilt with light and color. Classrooms turned into creative learning hubs filled with art, music, and books. Kennedy created a rooftop garden where the children learned to grow their own vegetables. He built a small medical clinic inside, hired full-time counselors, and launched scholarships for every child. The new game, chosen by the children themselves, was the haven. But perhaps the most powerful change happened beyond the walls. Kennedy brought in mentors, teachers, artists, former foster child Rena who spent time with the kids, helping them rediscover what it meant to dream. He visited every week, not as a benefactor, but as a friend. He played soccer with them, read bedtime stories, and often stayed late into the night talking to Sister Agnes about their next goals. "He doesn't just fix buildings," she said with tears in her eyes. "He fixes spirits." When the haven finally reopened, the world took notice. News outlets from around the globe covered the story. The once forgotten orphanage became a symbol of hope and humanity. Videos of the children laughing in their new playground went viral, touching millions of hearts online. Kennedy received awards and recognition, but he never took credit. "The heroes are the kids," he said in an interview. "They taught me what real strength looks like." Of course, there were setbacks. A winter storm damaged part of the new roof. Donations ran low one season and Kennedy himself faced health issues from the non-stop stress. But every time the project stumbled, The community rallied, volunteers came from across the country, inspired by what Kennedy had started. Even local businesses began offering jobs to older teens from the Haven. What began as a one-man mission had grown into a movement. 3 years later, the first group of children from the Haven graduated high school. Many received scholarships to college, some went into apprenticeships, and one, Liam, the boy who once dreamed of fixing roofs and now studies architecture. When he gave a speech at the ceremony, his words brought everyone to tears. Mr. Kennedy didn't just rebuild our home, he rebuilt our faith that people care. Today, the Haven Project has become a model replicated in other countries, blending education, emotional healing, and sustainability. John Kennedy continues to work quietly behind the scenes, helping new orphanages take root around the world. He still visits the Haven often, sitting under a large oak tree in the courtyard while the children play around him. When asked in a recent interview what motivated him to take on such a massive, selfless project, he smiled and said, "For years, I built things to impress people. Now, I build things that matter." The story of John Kennedy and the Haven reminds the world that compassion can be more powerful than wealth, and that one act of courage can ripple across generations. It shows that true legacy isn't made of glass towers or fortuna, it's made of hearts rebuilt, dreams restored, and lives forever changed. And as one of the children wrote in a letter that now hangs in the Haven's main hallway, "You didn't just save us, Mr. Kennedy. You showed us that miracles are built, not found."